I couldn't sleep last night, in part because I feel that I have to make regular videos. In many regards, I think it's similar in nature to what Ron Van Dyke was doing, but with a different focus, or slightly different focus. If I can kind of frame it allegorically or metaphorically, it's sort of something like what his focus on was from the heart, about the heart of the matter. What I'm going to be focusing on in my series of videos is roughly from the creative core, about the heart of the matter. And so in many regards it's complementary to what Ron Van Dyke was doing, but with a slightly different focus. How this seems to have come about is, in especially the last 6 months or so, I have been going through many sort of difficult life or death sort of situations. And the only thing I've come to is that it was sort of a training. And although I don't think, in a certain way, my training wheels are off yet, I do feel that I shall start this and see where it goes. So in other words, I am somewhat skeptical still about what I'm doing, but it fits in many regards, so I shall carry on with it. If I am right, then much of this is map making. I'm going to explore different kind of map making, and the lineage of this map making is in rough from the public, stretching back. Terence McKenna, sort of before that, people maybe like Claire Graves, and even before that maybe Aurobindo, with different focuses and different intensities of their wisdom. And then Terence McKenna, and then Ron Van Dyke. It's strange to put those together, if they ought to be together or not, but what I think that they were focusing on is different things, and that there's an exponential time in which the data that is coming out would be expressed in a unique way. So where Terence McKenna was more dealing with solar plexus issues, power, and novelty in relation to time and stuff, Ron was more focusing on issues of compassion, communion, how we can get together to deal with what we're facing and these sorts of things. In that sense, it's very prescient for what is to come in many regards. This data is more archetypal, if anything. If it is anything, it is that. Dealing with more heady issues, unfortunately, in some regards, it is less maybe personal. So I'm going to be primarily exploring integrating issues, integrating the large swath of data from people like Ken Wilber, primarily as one of my sources, in the sense that I think that his integrating map covers the territories of subjectivity very well, thoughts, feelings, and emotions, meditation, these sorts of things, and is also fairly good in including values, which was pioneered by people like Claire W. Graves, developmental systems of growing up, and these other states of consciousness. Although it's an integral map, which means he's doing a pretty good job of including science and so forth, people like Terence McKenna really were into the heart of what I think was going on there. And what I mean by that is that, to me, it seemed like he was navigating the kind of crescents of evolution, the crest of evolution in both the technological sense and in where the mind was at that time, through primarily things like psychedelics, which I've done very little of myself. That is more, in my opinion, more that shamanic kind of third chakra thing, where what Ron was focusing on is more the ritual, in a good sense, in a very positive outlook. Repeating this data, we need to hear it, or like a regular practice that is good. You listen to it and you get much out of it, and I did too. He was very insightful in that sense, and I hope he continues. And what seems to be interesting about this, if there is again anything to it, and if there is, I think that my clarity on it will increase as we go forward, and hopefully it will make more sense about what I'm talking about. But when Ron Van Dyke finished his, or rather, he predicted sort of a confluence of happenings through Carl Kellerman's, I think his name is, map. And I believe that was sort of early November, if I'm remembering correctly. That's when I really started to go through some really weird and very challenging things. Although it really peaked a couple of times, but early New Year's and then later on, which I will have to contemplate about how much I want to get into some of those things. But what has, I believe, come out of it is a map that is quite unique, and it does, I believe, include the insights of things like what Ken Wilber was talking about, what Terence McKenna was talking about, as well as a lot of the more social issues that essentially Ron Van Dyke has been dealing with. Sort of the hidden government issues. And I actually tried to write a book on it about 3 years ago, and I was running into difficulties at the very end of it, how to summarize many of these notions. And perhaps that's what this is, in some regards, is a conclusion of these notions, or a summation of them in certain regards. So down the road, I do hope to talk about alternative governance structures in relation to integrative theory and all these other things. They're hopefully, if my map does stand up to the tests, it will have a strong integrative sense to it, and through that, hopefully provide a strong degree of purpose. Because of this whole contemplative thing that took place last night, I haven't really got much sleep at all, and so my clarity of mind right now isn't at its peak. So I will try my best to make regular videos. I don't know how, that is to say, I really will try to make one every day in sort of a ritualistic way, but not probably at the 4:44 that Ron Van Dyke does, mostly because I have to work every day, and it's not really conducive to me to wake up that early. It's 5 in the morning right now, but it will be not like that. I'll maybe talk a little bit more about what I think this sort of represents, so that you get a feel for this. In some regards, this area has to do, I think, with map making, and the more accurate we pull down the maps and express them to others, the more we're honoring the intelligence of that system, this system. whereas this system is one for which we feel into others to provide a sense of care for others. This one brings down data that is sort of unique, arguably novel, creative, as does this in certain regards. But this is for the intention of maps, to renegotiate our understanding of reality. So it's a little bit more philosophical, even though this is fairly philosophical, it can very much be, but more social and purposeful, in my opinion. This area is more to do with vision and knowing, or something like that. So the map that I'm playing with is 6-on-6 repeating fractally, and it fits in very well with what McKenna is doing. And I'll explore that more in contours later. I've made one video on it now. But hopefully what I'm going to be able to do is relate the things that are happening now, because I do believe that these cycles are happening in the moment, and I've been experiencing that more and more, so that we can draw from the particular times that we're experiencing right now, because they're expressing certain kinds of novelty, and show how they actually fit into a map, so that we can get all these different angles of understanding connecting together, hopefully. So that's what I've been working on.